Hello, Dr. Jude.
Hindi ako maka-open ng video. Unable to start video.
Sorry. Okay, try it now. Okay.
Okay, kita mo na ako. Okay, so good afternoon everyone. Magandang hapon pong muli sa inyo. For this afternoon, we're going to talk about vaccination. No? This is a very timely topic since I'm sure aware naman po lahat no, na meron na tayong rollout, okay? And hindi natin maiwasan na meron din mga conflicts no, with regards to vaccination. And although ang focus naman po ng discussion natin ngayon is the importance of being vaccinated, and we will be discussing also what we call vaccination hesitancy. So there will be questions regarding the available vaccines right now. So feel free to write in the chat box, and our speaker will gladly answer your questions and your inquiries. Okay. So before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to thank, of course, our partners. So every time that we have this usapang lang, so we have UAP, Valuing Life, Breathe Freely, and of course, ang nagmamahal, Natra Farm, and what science can do coming from AstraZeneca. And of course, our forever loyal partner, we have Watson's. Okay, so shop for your health and beauty products at Watson's via a store near you, either online or via delivery service. Okay, so those are our generous partners. Okay, so I'd like to introduce to you our speaker for this afternoon. Okay, so short lang ang gusto niya introduction. Okay, so he's an internist pulmonologist in Puerto Princesa, Palawan, a board member of the PCCP Southern Tagalog chapter, and of course, a member of the PCCP Advocacy Committee. So friends, let's all welcome our speaker for this afternoon to discuss the Bakuna Chronicles. Okay, G na sa B or Go na sa Bakuna. Let's all welcome Dr. Adelito Posas. Hi, Dr. Posas. Magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat, sa ating mga suking taga-subaybay sa Watch Party brought to you by the Philippine College of Chest Physicians at saka Watsons. Sa hapong ito, pag-uusapan po natin ang isang napapanahon na topic at ito po ay tungkol sa bakuna. Ang objective po sa lecture na ito, i-review po natin ang basics ng vaccination at ang kanyang importance. At sigurado ako marami sa inyo ang nakikinig sa hapong ito dahil gusto nyo pa rin matuto tungkol po sa COVID-19 vaccination. So towards the end of my lecture, pag-uusapan po natin konti ang COVID-19 vaccination. Ano ba ang importance ng immunization programs or vaccination? According po sa Centers for Disease Control, ang vaccination po ang number 1 among the top 10 achievements in public health for the 20th century. At kahit po ito ay sa United States na data lamang, masasabi ko na ito po ay totoo po sa buong mundo. Napaka-importante po ng vaccination. Ang vaccination is important because vaccines promote health, so they help healthy people stay healthy, removing a major obstacle to human development, which is sickness. Number 2, vaccines have an expansive reach. They do not only protect the individual that was inoculated, but even the community as well because of herd immunity. and even the entire global population. A case in point is the eradication of smallpox in the late 70s. Number three, vaccines have rapid impact. They decrease significantly the mortality rates from complication among vaccine preventable diseases. So, in other words, vaccine save lives and costs. The impact of vaccination on the health of the world's people is hard to exaggerate. With the exception of safe water, no other modality has been such a major effect on mortality reduction and population growth. What is the ideal vaccine? Of course, we want a vaccine to be safe, immunogenic, meaning it stimulates our immune system to produce the necessary antibodies. It should provide us with long-lasting immunity. It should protect us against the disease to which we were vaccinated for. It should be stable in field conditions so that it can be rolled out or distributed to the far-flung areas. And preferably, if feasible, it should only be a single dose, both for the convenience of the vaccinator and the vaccinee. It should be affordable and accessible to all who need it. This slide will show to us a list of vaccine preventable diseases. And these diseases are very familiar to most of us, katulad ng influenza, pneumonia, tetanus, diphtheria, measles, mumps, hepatitis A and B, at kahit po human papilloma virus. However, the road to vaccination is not that easy. Sabi nga ng World Health Organization, ang vaccine hesitancy is one of the 10 threats to global health. And in relation to that, earning the public trust, especially when we are preparing for an epidemic or a pandemic, is one of the most urgent health challenges in the year 2020. What is vaccine hesitancy? World Health Organization defines it as a delay in acceptance or refusal of vaccines despite the availability of vaccination services. In less than 2% of the population, they refuse all vaccines. In about 10 to 15%, they may accept some, but they are not sure. They may delay the acceptance of the vaccine or refuse some of the vaccines. Good thing that in over 50% of cases, people accept the vaccines. The vaccine hesitancy can be explained in the so-called 3Cs model. The 3Cs stand for confidence, complacency, and convenience. Confidence is defined as the trust in the effectiveness and safety of the vaccine, trust in the system that delivers them, including the healthcare professional, and the motivation of the policymakers who decide on the needed vaccines. Complacency exists where perceived risk of vaccine preventable diseases are low and vaccination is not deemed a necessary preventive measure. In the context of COVID-19, if we had this vaccination rollout last year, probably only a few will allow themselves to be vaccinated because not all areas of the Philippines had a surge of COVID-19. But now the scenario is different. Almost all areas in the Philippines suffer from COVID-19. So people are readily waiting for themselves to be vaccinated. Convenience is a significant factor when physical availability, affordability, and geographical accessibility and quality of services. This will surely affect the decision to be vaccinated. We all know that vaccine hesitancy is widespread, and its major causes are, number one, disinformation, especially from the internet. There is a lot of fake news. There is a lot of misinformation, dissemination, taking into accounts that vaccines are not that important. But be assured that when you speak about vaccine and its efficacy, it is based on science. The second cause of vaccine hesitancy is inability to evaluate the risk of the disease against the risk of vaccine reaction. When millions of people would benefit from vaccination and there is an isolated incident of death, the media and the different social platforms will focus on that particular isolated negative incident, and people would start to panic and would resort into vaccine hesitancy. A third reason would be inadequate education of healthcare workers. Very sad to say, some of the anti-vaxxers are doctors and nurses. And lastly is the lack of altruism. I would like to emphasize that before a new vaccine is developed, approved, and manufactured, it has undergone the different phases of clinical trials that is a requirement. And the Food and Drug Administration or the other regulatory agencies like the European Medicines Agency will only grant an approval or license to a vaccine if they prove it to be safe and effective and the benefits clearly outweighs the risk. This is being done so that the potential benefits of an effective vaccine must outweigh against the potential risk of an adverse event from immunization. However, we should remember that despite their success in preventing diseases, vaccines rarely protect 100% of the recipients. So no vaccinist should assume that there is no risk of contracting the disease against which they have been vaccinated. All additional precautions against infection should be carefully considered and followed. Like in the context of COVID-19, even if one is fully vaccinated, you should continue to observe the minimum public health standards, like the wearing of face mask, face shield, to maintain physical distancing and frequent hand washing. How do vaccines work? Throughout life, since we were young, we have been exposed to a lot of pathogens and diseases like measles, chickenpox, and flu. We either develop antibodies against these common diseases because we were vaccinated against these diseases, or we were sick with these diseases. So it's understandable that we have an existing antibodies in our body. But for a new pathogen like SARS-CoV-2 or a new disease like COVID-19, it is very clear that we do not have an existing antibody. So vaccination is the process actually of introducing a harmless part, an inactivated or attenuated virus or bacteria, which we call as the antigen, to our body. And this will allow our immune system to recognize and fight against that particular antigen by developing what we call antibodies who would later on defend our body when we are exposed to the same organism. In other words, we develop immunity by either of two ways. We develop antibodies when we get a natural infection from the disease. However, this is too risky because we could either die from the infection, we could either recover but with some degree of disability, or fully recover. On the other hand, vaccination produces the same kind of immunity. We develop the same kind of antibodies, but we do not have to endure the illness. So there is a low risk of adverse reaction that we get from vaccination compared to the serious complications when we actually experience the actual infection. What's in a vaccine? The main ingredient is water, and the active ingredient is a very small amount of bacteria or virus which we are immunized against. It also contains preservatives and stabilizers, which will maintain vaccine quality, okay, to ensure their safe storage and prevent contamination. And the most common preservative, and stabilizer is your sorbitol. It will also contain adjuvants so that the vaccine will create a stronger immune response. And the most common example is aluminum. And it also has residual traces of substances that has been used during the production of the vaccine. When we speak about vaccine, the word herd immunity is not far behind. So what is herd immunity? It is the indirect protection from infection conferred to susceptible individuals when a sufficiently large proportion of immune individuals exist in a population. Let me explain further. If, for example, we have a person who is sick with a particular disease, and he happens to be residing in a community that has not been vaccinated. So anybody surrounding this particular person is susceptible and may get infected with the same disease. How about that same person in a community that has undergone vaccination, but the threshold is below the threshold for herd immunity? So this diseased person may either pass the infection to a susceptible individual who will eventually turn out to be sick or develop the disease, but he may also be exposed to a person who has been vaccinated rather, and that person would act as a obstacle to further transmit the disease to the other people. So some may be infected with the disease, but for those who are vaccinated, they may act as a barrier or a protection. How about if that person resides in a community that has been vaccinated and has achieved the threshold immunity above the level of protection? Then only a few of the susceptible individuals will get down with the disease. That is the importance of vaccinating about 70 to 80% of the population to achieve herd immunity. How safe are the existing vaccines? And what about safety and side effects? Now, as I mentioned earlier, vaccines are safe and effective. Any licensed vaccine is rigorously tested before it is approved for use, and then they are regularly reassessed and constantly monitored for side effects. In the rare event of a serious side effect, an immediate investigation is being carried out. How about immunization in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic? Is adult vaccination recommended during the COVID-19 pandemic? The answer is a resounding yes. For countries with the existing pneumococcal, influenza, or pertussis vaccination programs for older adults and individuals with high-risk conditions, these programs should be continued, okay, so as to prevent the susceptible individuals from getting a severe disease. How about co-administration with other vaccines? The Centers for Disease Control last May 18 said that other vaccines may now be co-administered with COVID-19 vaccines without regard to timing. Unlike before, we have to wait for 14 days. They also allowed the simultaneous administration of COVID-19 vaccines and other vaccines on the same day. If multiple vaccines are to be administered in a single visit, you can administer the different vaccines at different sites. And if in a single site among adults and adolescents, you can inject two vaccines in a single site as long as they are separated by 1 inch or more apart. If in your area, immunization services were suspended because of the periodic lockdown brought about by the pandemic, then you should do catch-up immunization activities. This will show to us the recommended adult immunization schedule. So very common is your annual flu vaccination, then you have your pneumococcal vaccination either by a single dose of your pneumococcal conjugate vaccine and then followed by 1 dose of your pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine. Then you have your schedule for your hepatitis V vaccines at 3 doses, 0, 1, 6 months apart, and then vaccines for rabies, typhoid, and the other viral infections. With regards to COVID-19 vaccines, what technology or platform does each COVID vaccine use and how do they work? There are four main types of COVID-19 vaccines. We have the whole virus vaccine or the inactivated vaccines. This is exemplified by your CoronaVac or your Sinovac vaccines and your Sinopharm. We also have the very popular messenger RNA vaccines, example of which are your Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines. Then we have the viral vector vaccines as exemplified by your AstraZeneca, the Gamaleya Research Institute Sputnik V vaccine, and the vaccine from Johnson & Johnson and Janssen, which is the only single-dose vaccine approved for now. Then we have protein subunit vaccines, like the ones from Novavax in Maryland, and the ones from the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Wuhan or in Beijing. Which vaccines have been included in the World Health Organization emergency use listing? So these are the ones from Pfizer, BioNTech, AstraZeneca, CoronaVac, your Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna vaccines. Which vaccines have received emergency use authorization in the Philippines already? These are your Pfizer, last January 14, Astra, last January 28, CoronaVac, last February 22, Sputnik V, last March 19, and more recently, about 3 days ago, Sinopharm vaccine. There are other vaccines shortlisted for approval by the Philippine Food and Drug Administration, depending on the evaluation of the vaccine expert panel. How many shots do I need to get an its interval? So if you happen to receive the Sinovac vaccines, you have 2 doses, 28 days apart. The Russian vaccine, 2 doses, 21 days apart, also 21 days apart. For your mRNA vaccine like Pfizer, 21 days apart, and Moderna, 28 days apart. AstraZeneca has the longest interval, 6 to 12 weeks apart. Do some vaccines work better than others? This has been the bone of contention, the center of controversy and discussion, even in the different social media platforms. Okay, but I would like to remind you that June of last year, the WHO said that the threshold for vaccine efficacy is 50%. Any pharmaceutical who can show that their efficacy rate is 50% and above can be used for this pandemic. And right now we have several in our midst, no, whose efficacy rate is as high as 95%. So what I would like to tell everyone is that all the vaccines are effective, particularly at preventing severe disease and preventing hospitalization. So these vaccines are also very safe. As to side effects, they are only mild to moderate. So which leads us to the next question. How safe are COVID-19 vaccines? Okay, the COVID-19 vaccines are being held to the same safety standards as all traditional vaccines. So before authorization, the Food and Drug Administration carefully reviewed all the safety data from the different clinical trials. The vaccine expert panel and the National Immunization Technical Advisory Group reviewed all the safety data before recommending its use to the FDA. And even after granting authorization, the FDA and the Department of Health would still continue to closely and regularly monitor vaccine safety and its side effects. So when we speak of undesired effects from medication, whether it is parenteral or injectable, whether it is oral, like in the form of capsules or syrup, we expect two things to happen. No? We can either experience a side effect or an adverse effect. So side effect is generally an expected effect. But on the other hand, adverse effects are generally unexpected. They may come as an unpleasant surprise. So side effect can be therapeutic or harmful. Generally, they do not hinder the main effect of the drug, and they are mild and self-resolving. While adverse effects are generally harmful and undesirable, they hinder the treatment and they lead to more complications, and sometimes they are also life-threatening. What do we still need to know about the COVID-19 vaccine? We do not know if it is effective in preventing transmission. That is why, even if we are fully vaccinated, we still have to maintain or practice the minimum public health standards. We do not know the duration of immunity or protection. We do not know how long will vaccine-induced antibodies last. There is no data yet on efficacy or safety in children and pregnant women, although the Pfizer-BioNTech is now being given to adolescents age 12 to 15, and there are too few data to draw conclusions about efficacy in subpopulations like people with HIV, those with comorbidities, and those who are immunocompromised. I am already fully vaccinated. I received my second dose of CoronaVac last April 8th. And be reminded that vaccination is just one measure to help stop the pandemic. Do not forget to wear your mask, your face shield, to do frequent hand washing, and to maintain a distance of at least 6 feet from your nearest neighbor. So a commonly asked question is, which COVID-19 vaccine is the best? And I always answer that the best vaccine is the one that's administered to you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Posas. Maraming salamat po, and it's indeed a very comprehensive lecture. Dr. Posas.
Yes, Jude. Good
Yes.
afternoon. Good afternoon sa ating mga participants sa watch party this afternoon.
Yes, so Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao po tayo ulit ngayong hapon, Dr. Posas. So talagang inaabangan nila yung lecture mo. Okay. So we're here not to promote a specific vaccine, hindi po ba, Doctor? But we're here to promote and encourage individuals to be vaccinated. Although sabi nga nila, it's a choice naman talaga ng tao kung gusto na magpabakuna o hindi. So tayo, nag-encourage para matulungan natin, parang responsibility natin sa sarili natin, saka sa kapwa natin. Okay? So yun po yung purpose natin sa hapong ito. Okay, so I have several questions here po, Doctor, and I'd just like to remind po yung kasama natin dito sa watch party. If you have questions, feel free to send your questions through the chat box. Okay. So ito, thank you now from Reynalyn Lucenio. Thank you, Dr. Posas, for that lecture. Okay.
Welcome,
So, question here, Doctor, that how is the safety of the COVID vaccine being monitored?
Okay, so sa personal experience ko so after I received my COVID-19 vaccine, and then we are told to go to a particular area wherein we are observed for a period of 30 minutes to an hour, depending on whether you have a history of allergies in the past. And then we were also given an orientation after our registration. We were given an orientation on how to report and where to report in case we do have certain undesirable effects related to the vaccine.
Okay. I think in other institutions po, they have parang a Google Sheet, no? Na everyday fini-fill upan yon. So nakalagay doon yung name, the specific vaccines, kung meron mga side effects. Okay, so you need to fill out that every day, no, until the next 6 months kung walang comorbid, or up to 1 year pag merong comorbidity, no. So monitoring of the patients also, no. So so I think different hospitals have different ways to monitor, okay, the safety of the individuals who had the COVID vaccine shots. Okay. So ito, medyo maano tong question na to, Dr. Lito. Can we trust vaccines that have been developed so quickly?
Okay, so to be fair, no, we know that it takes a number of years, no, sometimes 10 to 15 years to develop a particular vaccine. But what I can say is that although the COVID-19 vaccine has been developed in less than a year, or 10 to 16 months, but they followed everything that is required for a vaccine to be approved. Meaning to say, they still have to undergo the 3 phases of clinical trials that is required. But what is unique with the COVID-19 vaccine is that combination of trials were allowed. So we have vaccine candidates that are in phase 1, phase 2, phase 2, phase 3. But the number of volunteers or study subjects is still in thousands, no? Like in the range of 30 to 40,000.
Yes, no. So I think it has undergone naman ethical, no, review, okay, before undergoing, no, mga research studies on making the vaccines. So we have one question here, Dr. Lito, coming from Mr. Lemuel Lee. So what is the percentage of serious adverse reactions among COVID vaccines? Siguro in general po ito na COVID vaccine.
Probably, yeah, probably in general, but I could not cite a particular figure to give you an outright answer because some of the reports are in a particular brand of vaccine. No? So, like for example, recently there have been mentioned about new side effects with a particular brand of vaccine. So it's really difficult to give a certain figure as of the moment. We have to wait for the final report probably on whether it is really related to the actual vaccine.
So perhaps after 6 months or 1 year, doctor? We're
Yes,
not sure,
probably.
no? Most probably. Okay, why aren't all vaccines 100% effective? Coming from Erwin Morales.
Probably it has something to do with the type of the vaccine. So as I've shown earlier, we have 4 types of vaccines. And because in general, in the earlier slides that I showed, the more similar an antigen is to the more similar an antigen is to the disease-causing organism, we expect the vaccine to be more effective because it's supposedly more immunogenic. So right now, the current trend is on mRNA vaccines. We do not know if it's really going to be that highly efficacious compared to the traditional vaccines like inactivated vaccines. Probably in the next few months, we can have data on that.
Okay. Coming from Mr. Edwin Ramos, I am a 68 years old. Thank you very much po for joining us. Bakit daw ang dami-daming vaccines? Nung panahon nila, wala namang bakuna, hindi naman sila nagkakasakit.
Oo nga, sir, no? Totoo. That is a very good observation, sir. But probably marami na pong sakit ngayon, sir, no? At the present time, marami ding dahilan. Yun nga, isa doon yung climate change. And most of these diseases, sir, are actually vaccine preventable diseases. So, kinatatakutan po natin yung mga komplikasyon from these vaccine preventable diseases. Kaya ang pangunahin pong solusyon para maiwasan natin ito ay ang pagkakaroon po ng bakuna.
Okay. Dr. Posas, coming from Richel, is natural immunity better than vaccine-acquired immunity?
In the context of COVID-19, hindi pa kasi natin alam kung gaano katagal, how long will an infection-induced antibody level would um, would stay compared to a vaccination-induced antibody reaction that we have to know also probably in the next few months.
Okay. So, still parang ongoing research na, Doctor. So, we will know the actual response, no? When the vaccinated individual, meaning more time is required, no, di po ba, no, to make a definite observation. Okay. Why do some vaccines requires booster doses?
Okay, so in general, the first dose of a vaccine is what we call as the priming dose. And lahat naman po ng mga bakuna na ito, noong clinical trials, they were studied under different doses. No? Depende sa brand, in micrograms, in milligrams. And they noticed that after the first dose, medyo hindi ganun kataas ang antibody level. So yung second dose is what we call as the boosting dose or yung booster. At nakita nila na mas mataas na nga po yung antibody level. So yun po yung dahilan kung bakit nire-require nila na 2 doses.
Okay. So to enhance the immunogenic effect. Tama po.
Ng
Okay.
bakuna.
Ng bakuna. Okay. We have a question here from Cynthia Tala. No? Siguro maganda yung question niya. So parang I think may relation sa vaccine hesitancy. No? I have read that mRNA vaccines can adversely affect oncogenic genes, hence can promote carcinogenesis. So can you comment on this now, Doctor?
To be honest with you, no, that question comes from a very good friend of mine. Wala din po akong talagang masasabi na magandang sagot diyan sa tanong na yan.
Okay, so antayin natin yung final, no? Final, kasi as of now, parang Doctor, di ba, Dr. Lito, yung mga vaccines, parang baby pa sila lahat di ba?
Probably early next year, probably we have
Meron na.
we have answers to most of our questions at present.
So a follow-up from Miss Cynthia Tala, no? But she also read that it can be used to treat cancer.
Oo, kasi kung titingnan natin, 'di ba, yung bakuna, meron tayong mga tinatawag na targeted therapy in cancer. So, para siyang medyo hindi siya bago actually na technology as far as oncology is concerned. Bago lang siya ngayon sa platform ng vaccination.
So hopefully may potential in the future. Okay.
Katulad ng mRNA vaccine, hindi naman siya actually bago na technology. It's already existing, ginagamit na po siya in animals, no? Even
Animals,
in the
yes.
90s. But for humans, ngayon lang po siya nagamit.
Okay. So from Miss or Mr. Deb Neri, hello, Dr. Posas. I just want to ask, is it true that the new variant ng virus ngayon ay hindi kaya ng Sinovac? Okay, so baka siya na-inject, baka Sinovac siguro na-receive niya, no? Anyway, kaya even though fully vaccinated of the said vaccine ay nahahawa pa rin. Thank you.
Okay, so ang mga data kasi ngayon with regards to the COVID-19 vaccines, will it work against the variants? Ang mga data kasi na lumalabas, galing pa rin po sa mga vaccines, mRNA vaccines, no, katulad ng Pfizer, Moderna, at meron tayong ibang data coming from AstraZeneca at saka Novavax. In particular, sa Sinovac or yung CoronaVac na vaccines, wala po silang sinasabi. Pero ang kagandahan lang, merong mga pag-aaral, although sa laboratory studies ito at yung nakikita nila na yung tinatawag nila ngayon na alpha variant, yung dating UK variant, yung B117, yung dating South African variant na tinatawag ngayon na beta variant, or kahit yung Brazilian variant na tinatawag ngayon na gamma variant, ito po ay nanuneutralize pa rin up to a certain degree, no, varying degrees, no, sa mga existing na vaccines. But for Sinovac, CoronaVac, wala po akong nabasa na article with regards to its efficacy in among the variants.
Variants, okay. So hopefully in the next few months, meron nang i-release na tama, Dr. Lito?
Yes, hopefully.
Hopefully, okay. So another question here, why do some vaccines have live pathogens but others have killed pathogens?
Okay, so yun namang mga attenuated or mga weakened, no, or inactivated antigens, they are weak enough to cause an actual disease but strong enough actually to elicit an immune response. So parang ganon, para sigurado na hindi siya makakos ng sakit but strong enough naman na makapag-develop ng antibodies sa ating katawan.
Why is allergy to eggs a contraindication to getting some vaccines? Siguro another reason to for vaccine hesitancy, no?
Pero
May allergy.
hindi siya ganun ka-absolute. It was in the past it was because there were some components of the vaccines, no, na protein components of the vaccine that is parang related sa egg protein.
So ngayon parang hindi na contraindication.
Hindi na siya absolute na contraindication.
Okay. So sa nagtanong po, magpabakuna na kayo, no? So hindi daw po hindi absolute contraindication ng allergy to eggs. Okay. Dr. Posas, people say vaccines are linked to long-term health problems like diabetes, autism, because of its chemical components.
Okay, so
kaya siguro takot yung mga iba, no, na pagpa-vaccine because of this one.
Yung link to autism, actually, I think it has been parang na-debunk na yung myth na yun, no. It was because of a controversial paper na inamin naman niya that it was actually a bogus paper, so wala na yung link actually to autism. As for other diseases like diabetes, honestly, I really do not know. I still have to find out also.
Okay, so thank you. A question here, no, from Mr. Donny Salvador. I'm sure familiar sa inyong pangalan. Okay, so what's your take on extending the dose interval of COVID vaccine?
As far as extending the interval, ang alam ko lang is yung dose interval ng AstraZeneca vaccine. Parang sinabi na the longer, the better. Mas maganda yata yung immunogenicity niya pag 12 weeks talaga compared to 6 or 8 weeks.
Compared to other vaccines na the second dose will be given at an earlier time, no? Right, Doctor?
Yes.
Okay.
Kasi yung 21 days at saka 28 days, ang inalaw lang ng CDC is parang yung rule of 4. It can be given 4 days earlier and 4 days later.
That's why I think there are some individuals na nagpa-check sila na antibody titer. So ginamit yung titer sa binada vaccines are effective. Siguro, no? Kaya yun siguro yung ginawa ng iba. Okay? If I have COVID-19 and got recovered, do I still need to get vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine?
Yes, the answer is yes. You can have yourself vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine upon recovery. Unlike before na sinasabi that you have to wait for 3 months or 90 days, ang dalawang condition na lang doon na maghintay ka ng 3 months is when you were sick with COVID-19, you were given a monoclonal antibody or convalescent plasma. Ang reason why you have to have a COVID-19 vaccine after recovery is para mas lalo pang ma-boost ang inyong immune response for COVID. So meron kang both vaccine-induced at saka infection-induced antibodies.
Okay. Um, how how do we address vaccine hesitancy?
I think the best way to deal with vaccine hesitancy is really um, a good communication. Sa mga nababasa ko, yung pinakamaganda nila, ang sinasabi nila is yung tinatawag na 5 A's of good communication. Ang ibig sabihin ng 5 A's, unang-una is access, no? Dapat makita, mas dapat accessible yung bakuna sa tao. Kasi kahit anong convince mo sa tao na magpabakuna, kung alam niya na mahirap i-avail yung bakuna, he will never allow himself to be vaccinated. Siguro pangalawa naman yung affordability sa mga traditional vaccines, pero yung affordability should not be a consideration dito sa COVID-19 vaccine because it is given for free. Number 3 is yung awareness. Awareness in the sense na alam mo kung bakit ka dapat magpabakuna, alam mo kung ano ba ang benefits na makukuha mo sa pagbabakuna. Yung pang-apat na A is yung acceptance. Acceptance, yung tinatawag nating I will have myself vaccinated. At ang panglima po is yung activation. You just have to do it. So access, affordability, awareness, acceptance, at saka activation. Yun yata yung pinakamaganda na gawin para po ma-address natin ang vaccine hesitancy.
Yes, so I agree, Dr. Posas. Plus, I think the reason why medyo meron tayong mga vaccine hesitancy issues is because yung nababasa rin no, sa social media. So, naapektuhan din yung mga yung mga gusto magpabakuna sa mga nababasa nila. Plus, aside from that, I think meron ding mga ibang issues na like mga immunization behavior ng mga kababayan natin, or let's say yung kanilang beliefs na about safety and efficacy, and also the general attitude and the trust per se, no? So I think those are factors that contributes, no, to vaccine hesitancy. Okay. I had a history of DVT. Is this a precaution or contraindication to vaccination?
Kung titingnan natin yung mga guidelines about the absolute contraindication to vaccination, no? Sa atin, sa Pilipinas, the only absolute is really a history of anaphylaxis, no? To any vaccine that you have received in the past. Sa ibang countries like sa Singapore, on top of that, ini-include nila yung platelet count of less than 50,000. Kung ang kanyang pinapahiwatig ay baka magkaroon siya ng blood clotting mechanism, sa tingin ko hindi siya absolute contraindication din kasi yung vaccine-related na thrombosis at saka thrombocytopenic purpura, ang kanyang occurrence is very rare. Mas mataas pa nga yung blood clot in association with that you get from an actual COVID-19 infection. Mataas pa nga yung blood clot that can happen to anyone who smokes, from anyone who is using birth control pills.
Yes, okay. Plus, I think conclusive ba yung mga data, Doctor, about the clotting episodes?
It was only found out in 2 brands of vaccines. But until now, I think they are still working on the actual, if there is indeed a causal relation with the occurrence of this blood clotting mechanism with the specific types of vaccine.
Okay. From Miss Teresa Loreto, what about the proposed experiment on using mixed vaccines?
Okay, so ang stand ng CDC for now is you get your second dose of the vaccine na pareho doon sa first dose. But of course, we've heard reports, especially with the use of AstraZeneca and possible second dose of Pfizer vaccine, no? But I think they're still on clinical trials.
Trials.
Probably, yeah, clinical trials. But if it can be used right now in the rollout of the vaccines, I think we have to stick with the original protocol.
Okay. Um, I think kailangan lang natin siguro i-re-emphasize po ito ulit, Doctor, no? If I am pregnant, can I get a COVID vaccine?
Okay, doon sa site ng CDC, if a pregnant woman happens to be a healthcare personnel, so ibig sabihin, kung sa atin yan, A1 yan, di ba? Mataas yung
Yes.
risk for getting COVID-19. After discussing that issue with her obstetrician gynecologist, sinabi doon sa CDC guidelines that she may get the vaccine after the first trimester.
Okay, so after the first trimester. Kasi I think may fear sila na magkakaroon ng congenital problems, okay? Or baka hindi magtuloy yung pregnancy. Yun po yata yung mga fear, okay? So, will the immune system be weaker by relying on a vaccine?
We've heard of so many issues that you should be very, very careful after the first or the second dose of your vaccine because um, your immune system is supposedly weak during this time. No, but I've searched for literatures on that. Probably the other doctors in the audience can help me, but I've encountered none that to that effect.
Okay. So, a question from Miss Janeth. If I got vaccinated with pneumonia vaccine, can I have myself vaccinated with COVID vaccine later and when? So from Miss
Ah,
Janet
yes.
Samson.
Okay. Okay. So before May 18, we have to wait for a period of 14 days, no, with regards to co-administration of COVID-19 vaccines with other vaccine. But May 18 guidelines of the CDC said that you don't have to wait for that period of time. You can even co-administer COVID-19 vaccine with another vaccine at two different sites. And if for some reason you only have a single site, you can do so also as long as the two vaccines is separated by at least 1 inch.
Okay. So I think she asked this because she's already 63 years old po, Doctor. Okay. So another question from Miss Bea AB, nakalagay lang. When will be the next COVID vaccine dose po? Ito pala, sorry. When will be the next COVID vaccine booster dose?
Yeah,
Siguro,
that we have to find out, no. Probably because the first vaccinees received their vaccine the first week of December, no, last year. Probably studies will be published at the latter part of the year or early of next year. Then we will know if we need a booster shot for this COVID-19 vaccine and how often.
or will this be like the flu vaccine na every year na? Okay. So I think that's related to one question na, can I choose the vaccine that I will receive? Siguro baka after the ano na to, after the 2 doses. So I think the question is, in case a booster is needed, pwede na ba
Mm.
siyang mamili
Well,
ng
probably yes, no,
vaccine?
yes. But can we choose the vaccine that we want if it's our first time to be vaccinated? Now, we've heard of reports, no, especially some doctors, no, who died of COVID waiting for their preferred brand, and we don't want that to happen.
Yes, okay. So sabi nga niya, Doctor, di ba, the best vaccine is the one that is already available. Okay.
Yes.
Uh, we have a question from Dr. Tomas Realisa. So how do you discern that is a fake news on vaccines? Or how to discern that it is a fake news, no, with regards to vaccines?
Siguro in the context ng vaccination sa Pilipinas, We just have to verify if these reports are coming from reliable sources, no? Like, for example, yung Philippine Society of Microbiology and Infectious Disease, if these are reports from the WHO, from the Centers of Disease Control, from the PCP, PCCP, and then from the DOH. Siguro ganun na lang, no? Yung source na yun.
Yes, or sa WHO, CDC. Okay. Okay, before I continue, hello to all the Watson's followers. Okay, so welcome po sa aming sa ating no or sa aming watch party. Okay. We have so many questions, Doctor. So I hope we still have time to discuss this. Why do healthy individuals need to be immunized?
Yes, because if you will recall yung pangatlo kong slide kanina, why is vaccination important? Because it keeps healthy people stay healthy, no? Hindi siya katulad sa ibang intervention for health, for human health na ibibigay lamang kung nagkasakit ang tao. So ang vaccination is given even for healthy people to remove one of the major obstacle to human development, which is illness.
Illness. Okay. Okay. This is an interesting question. Can the COVID-19 vaccine affect fertility?
The CDC statement
From ano
says
to?
no.
From Sherwin.
Yeah, the answer is no.
No. Okay. So Sherwin, pa-vaccine ka na. Okay. In relation to pregnancy and fertility, should I stop using my contraceptive pills if I get the COVID vaccines? Baka siguro ano to, doctor, no? Baka sa DDT rin,
Related
no?
doon
Oo.
sa risk.
Oo. Oo.
If you are using oral contraceptive pills right now, then probably you will choose a vaccine na walang reported cases of blood clots. Siguro. Yun na lang ang sagot ko doon.
Okay.
Pili ka na lang po.
Pili na lang, okay. Okay. Is it okay for people in the same household to get different types of COVID vaccine? Or should they get the same brand?
Wala namang rule na gano'n, no? Whatever is available, like in the area where I am practicing right now, merong week na yung available na vaccine ay CoronaVac or Sinovac. May week naman na ang available ay AstraZeneca. So we go by the prioritization scheme, kung ano yung available at yan po ay pwede sa kanila, yun po ang binibigay.
Saka kung ano, take it, sabi nga nila, di ba, doktor? No, kung andyan na, better no, get the job. Okay. Is it okay to donate blood after getting the COVID vaccine?
Nako, di ko ba naisip yan? Siguro nandito si Popot. Popot, ano bang opinion mo doon? Or si Lem din. May pathologist ba tayo sa ano?
Lem. Si Lemuel Lee, doctor?
Oo.
Okay, so we will wait for his response. Okay, so from Dr. Memi Manuel, can a 17-year-old about to turn 18 this coming December get vaccinated? And of course, with consent from parents and the patient.
Depende sa type ng vaccine kasi if the parent wants to have that 17-year-old vaccinated with Pfizer, BioNTech, so no problem kasi meron na silang indication for 12 to 15. But for other vaccines, ang kanilang protocol kasi is, ang studies kasi nila is only on 18 years old. So kailangan maghintay no, na magiging 18 talaga.
December siya mag-18 eh. So most probably meron namang rollout yan by that time, Doctor, di ba? Hindi naman po
meron pa yan. Hindi pa tayo matatapos.
Yes, okay. Should I delay getting pregnant if I'm about to get the COVID vaccine?
Okay, so especially during the early days of the vaccination, palaging sinasabi na kung may plano kang magbubuntis, then magbubuntis, then wag na lang munang magpabakuna. Or kung ikaw ay nabakunahan na, kailangan siguraduhin mo na hindi ka mabubuntis until your second dose is given. I think ang reason dyan is these are new vaccines. We don't really know its effect on teratogenicity. So better be on the safe side.
Okay, I agree. No, better be on the safe side. Can I get the vaccine if I am breastfeeding?
Oh yes, no, pwedeng yung mga nabakunahan at lactating mothers pwede po.
Okay. I think this was mentioned din sa lecture niyo, Doctor. No? Do the variants affect vaccine effectiveness?
Oo. So nakita natin doon na may mga bakuna na more effective sa variants. Ang well-studied actually yung mRNA vaccines, no? Nakita doon na maganda pa rin yung effect niya sa variants, but specifically only on two, no? Yung tinatawag nating alpha ngayon, yung UK variant at saka yung beta o yung South African variant.
Okay. I think this is in relation to a question a while ago, no? Could taking two different vaccines boost the effectiveness? Siguro yung first shot ganito, tapos yung second dose is iba.
I think they're studying on that, but we still have to stick with the original protocol of getting the same brand of vaccines both for the first and second dose.
Okay. And I think meron din iba, Doctor, no? Parang pag na-complete daw nila yung dose nila, next year, gusto pa nila magpadagdag ng another brand of vaccine. No? Yun ang line of thinking ng iba. No? Because of, sabi nga natin, si bawat vaccines, may mga kanya-kanyang lumalabas na issue kasi po. Okay? We have another question here sa chat box from Miss Cynthia Tala. According to Red Cross guidelines, there is no deferral time for. Okay, I think this is not a question, but rather a comment, Doctor, dun sa question about blood donation, no?
Mm-hmm.
So according to Red Cross guidelines, there is no deferral time for eligible blood donors who are vaccinated with inactivated or mRNA vaccines. For those who do not know their type of vaccine, better to wait for 2 weeks before donating. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Cynthia Tala, for that.
Yan si Dr. Talia.
Dr.
Classmate
Talia, sorry
yes.
po.
Classmate yan
Dr.
siya ni
Talia.
Dr. Bel Siasoko.
Okay. Okay, so Dr. Talia, thank you very much po. Okay, so
Lito ha. Nakakarami ka na.
Hi po.
Ayan, tuloy nag-react si Dr. Talia. Good afternoon po, Dr. Cynthia.
Hi, Jude.
Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. So she's a pulmonologist from the Southern Tagalog
In support
chapter.
of my good friend.
Naghakot
Thank you po.
Naghakot po ba, Doktora?
Oo, matagal na yan naghahakot.
Okay, so I am currently taking antibiotics. Can I get the vaccines, Doctor?
Oh yes, no. Hindi siya kasama doon sa mga contraindications for getting a vaccine.
Okay. I think same din po ito, no? I need a dental procedure. So can I get the vaccine or should I delay the procedure?
I think mas maganda you delay the procedure kung mga dental procedures. You can delay the procedure, unahin mo yung bakuna.
Okay. Okay, basic question to Doctor from Mark. What should I expect when I get my COVID vaccines?
So, ang pinaka-common dyan, yung tinatawag natin yung mga reactogenic na effect, no? Yung pain on the injection site, yung feeling na medyo mabigat or nangangalay, yung mga namumula. Kasi sa atin, no, marami nang naka-receive ng CoronaVac or Sinovac, halos none to very mild yung undesirable effects or side effects. Ang napapansin ko, kasi dalawa lang naman dito sa amin ang pinagpipilian, yung naka-receive po ng AstraZeneca vaccine, sila yung mga medyo nilalagnat, nag-chills, body pains, pero usually naman 1 to 2 days lang naman. And then after that, wala na.
I think that's very important, no, na all patients who will get vaccinated, that they be informed, no, ano yung mga mararamdaman nila. Kasi iba hindi na-inform, nilalabas sa social media, tapos sabihin nila na hindi maganda to kasi ito yung naramdaman ko. Kaya mas lalo tuloy nagkakaroon ng vaccination hesitancy. Okay, so I think it's very important that we tell our patients, no, yung mga nagpabakuna po. Okay, can I spread COVID infection to others after getting a COVID vaccine?
So yun po yung isa sa hindi pa natin alam kung kasama ba siya sa magandang epekto ng COVID vaccination, no? Does it stop transmission? Hindi pa natin alam. Pero yung Ministry of Health sa Singapore, unofficially, sinabi nila, no, last month that they've noticed na the vaccines really help in parang decreasing transmission, kasi mas madali kasi sa Singapore aralin yun kasi 'di ba they live in apartments, yung condominium. So
Yes.
siguro nakikita nila yung mga magkapitbahay lang sa mga apartments na yun, baka nakita nila na nabawasan talaga yung transmission.
Okay. I think another question which is related to hesitancy, no, vaccine hesitancy. Can I go back to my regular activities through sa work? Kasi I think may ibang notion na pag nagbakuna ka, hindi ka muna kaagad papasok ng ilang araw o ilang linggo. So, yun, baka daw mabawasan yung kanila. I mean, siyempre, yung stipend related, no? Siguro kaya iba, dinedelay yung pagpabakuna. So, can they go back to the regular activities, no? Like sa work po, after getting the COVID shots?
Yes, pwede po.
Okay, so pwede daw po. I follow up question, no, Doctor, remember yung 63-year-old natin na nagtanong, si Janet Samson. When I test for my neutralizing antibody after COVID vaccination, what level or threshold antibody is protective?
I think ang pananaw ko diyan, no, dalawa. Unang-una, actually, that's why a lot of experts would say that we should not test our antibody level after a COVID vaccination, because in the first place daw, itong mga antibody level na ito were not actually made to measure vaccine-induced antibody response, but rather for infection-induced antibody response. As to the particular level, di ko rin alam but I think any level, no, that is above zero is
Zero.
good enough. Yes,
Yes.
above zero is good enough kasi dapat wala ka, no?
Yes.
Because you're supposed to have no pre-existing antibody to COVID, because we were not vaccinated and we did not get the disease when, in the past.
So, Doctor, is age a factor in getting a good titer? Siyempre, like say, kung elderly, siyempre, immune response hindi kasing lakas no compared to very young.
Probably all things being equal, no, ibig sabihin, walang comorbidities, because even younger people with comorbidities, probably yung kanilang antibody response will be different, no? But all things being equal between the young and the old, theoretically, I would say yes.
Okay. From Gay de los Santos, Doctor, after I get vaccinated, can I be vaccinated with other brand of vaccines year after? I think nasagot niyo po ito kanina, no, Doctor? So, yes, no, kahit anong brand na. Okay. Can immunity that comes from vaccination wear off?
Yes, that we have to find out kung after ilang months or after ilang year. Yan po ay, sa tingin ko, ay pinag-aaralan pa sa ngayon.
Okay. Do we need to repeat vaccination, Dr. Posas, if, for example, the vaccine was given subcutaneously instead of intramuscular?
I think all our vaccinators are well informed and oriented as to the proper mode, no, of vaccinating not only COVID-19 but all other traditional vaccines. So it should I don't see it as a problem. Kasi talagang very ano sila, lalo na sa COVID-19 where stocks are limited, talagang they're very very
Dapat
careful.
sure, no? Oo, kasi hindi sayang.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the patient does not come back for the second dose, do we need to restart the vaccine series?
No.
Kasi ngayon, Doctor, di
Uh,
ba ang daming nasa news na hindi pa bumabalik? Almost 1 million daw yung wala pang second dose or hindi pa bumabalik, no?
They can come back anytime. You give the second dose and that's it.
So, pero wala naman po, Doctor, na parang cut off, no? Pag let's say, after 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, di bumalik, ulitin na?
Walang sinabing ganun, although sa ating guidelines ng CDC, ang sinabi lang nila na pwedeng 4 days earlier, pwedeng 4 days later. Pero ang sinabi din nila sa guidelines nila, as long as kung kailan makakabalik yung isang tao for the second dose, ibigay ka agad. And then consider it as a parang complete na 2 doses.
Okay. There's a reaction from Miss Beulah sa Sedon. Doc, talaga po ba dapat, hindi, Doc, pwede po ba na magkaiba ang first dose and second dose ng vaccine o dapat pareho po talaga? So I think nasagot na.
Sa ngayon, dapat pareho po.
Oo, pareho. Okay. Okay, medyo ano tong isang question na to, Doctor. Can COVID vaccine alter my DNA? Oh.
Yan, no? Isa din yan. Pero lahat ng binabasa natin nagsasabi na hindi dapat. So ang answer natin sa ngayon ay no.
Okay, no. Okay. Can COVID vaccine causes seizures or worsens asthma or allergy?
Hindi dapat din.
Okay. Hindi dapat. Okay. So, okay. Okay, we have a few more questions here. Okay. Dr. Posas, what are the what's the best approach daw po no in addressing each vaccine hesitancy issues aside from those mentioned, no? What's the best approach?
I think ano pa rin talaga yung proper way of communicating, being transparent on why. Kasi ang isang problema kasi din yun, yung trust issue is not only trust as to the safety and efficacy of the vaccine, kundi yung ding trust on yung mga, for example, in trust on the government, why they also procure this type of vaccine. So pag magiging transparent lang po ang government on the reasons why they are ordering or procuring this specific type of vaccines, that they are recommended by the vaccine expert panel, that they are recommended by the NITAG or your National Immunization Technical Working Group, so maintindihan ng tao na hindi pala political ang reason na yun, kundi scientific.
Scientific. Okay. So lahat naman po, di ba, meron scientific basis dapat. Okay. So I think this will be our last question from Dr. Melvin Pasay. Hi, Dr. Lito. Great presentation. I had my second dose last April, first week of April. Can I get another brand in 6 months?
Thank you, Melvin, ha. Ito dapat off the record, no, but I have so many friends and classmates who are now in the States, no. They receive another kind of vaccine here in the Philippines, and they're in the States receiving mRNA vaccines. Binibigyan din naman sila. I do not know if sinabi nila na nabakunahan na sila sa Pilipinas or tinatago nila ito. I really don't know the parang scientific basis as of this time, but probably the wisdom of doing this, makikita natin in the next few months.
The next few months. Okay, so I think na-exhaust natin ng extensively yung ating topic. Got it. Thanks again, according to Melvin. Okay.
Thank you, Melvin.
May isa pang question dito, Dr. Pahabol. So what can you comment or can you comment about the vaccine passport?
Oh, so yung
from
vaccine,
from Janet. I think ito,
oo.
baka may plano mag-travel siguro si Janet, Doctor.
Yung vaccine passport, probably not in the way that other people think. Ibig kong sabihin, hindi siya dapat magiging basihan to discriminate some travelers from entering a particular country because of the brand of vaccine that they receive. But rather, I think ang purpose ng vaccine passport is to welcome those travelers na there's a proof that they have been fully vaccinated, to decrease the risk of getting an infection in that particular destination, and also to protect the people in the destination also. So parang both ways of being protected.
Yes, okay. So I think yun ang nagiging issue, no? About certain brands are not allowed, no, in this particular country. Okay? Kaya siguro yung iba gusto magpa-vaccine ng brand na allowed sa Europe or sa USA, etc., etc. Okay? So I think naging extensive ang ating discussion. So with the other questions po, I will just send it to Dr. Lito and we will send you, no, yung response po ni Dr. Lito. Okay, so with that, thank you very much, Dr. Lito, for again accepting our invitation to be our speaker in this third series of vaccination lay forum. Okay, the Gina sa B. Okay, so the Bakuna Chronicles. So aside from thanking Dr. Lito, I'd like to also thank the audience, no, who every Saturday always attends, no, the Usapang Lang. Okay, so thank you very much po ulit. So with that, stay safe. Okay, and of course sa mga hindi pa nakapagpabakuna, okay, magpabakuna na po tayo. Okay, so sabi nga ni Dr. Lito, wag nang pamili, no? Okay, the best vaccine is the one that's already available, no? Yung kung ano yung in-inject sa inyo, yun ang the best vaccine. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, so Dr. Lito, thank you po ulit. Sa audience, thank you very much ulit.
Thank you,
So
Jude.
stay safe po. Okay. So before I end this usapang lang, I'd like to invite the viewers, no, for our upcoming advocacy events. So we have a lecture on building resilience for healthcare workers during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. This is sponsored by the Southern Mindanao chapter. It will be on June 18, so on a Friday at 7 p.m. with our very own Dr. Parkash Mansukani as the speaker. And of course, the daughter, Rada, okay, as the Rada Siliano as the moderator. Then we have on June 26, that's a Saturday at 3 p.m., we have Mr. Julius Anthony Shoson to discuss managing personal finances in the new normal. Okay, so I hope you could join us, okay, in these two upcoming advocacy events. Okay, so thank you very much. Before I end the session, I'd like again to thank our partners. We have UAP, Valuing Life and Breathe Freely. Of course, ang nagmamahal, Natra Farm. Maraming salamat sa pagmamahal, Natra Farm. AstraZeneca, What Science Can Do. And of course, Watsons. Okay, so shop for your health and beauty products at Watsons via a store near you, online or via delivery service. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant afternoon. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.